Thank you, Chris. So last week, if you all were here, you got a little peek into my crafting skills. It was a very sad peek, and I showed you a very limp spiral that I tried to create. It would definitely go on the Pinterest fail page. And as an adult, I've tried many different crafty endeavors. I tried knitting. Now, I'm pretty good with a scarf or a square or even a baby's hat, but I ventured away from something like that and tried a sweater. I know. I actually kept it for 10 years and unfortunately threw it away a couple of months ago. But let me tell you, it was about like that spiral. The like sleeves were off. It was crooked. It was very sad. I tried making jewelry, but you have to do these little loops on the earrings, and I couldn't get my loops to loop correctly. And I tried cupcakes, and I can bake a pretty good cupcake, but of course then you're expected to decorate it. And you're supposed to make these perfectly little formed roses on it, which I found impossible. And unrealistic, says Jean Prince. Thank you. And then a couple of years ago, I took guitar lessons because I love to sing, and I do have this little fantasy of me strolling in here one Sunday with my guitar and singing you all into worship. And while I was learning, I could identify most of the notes on the page. I felt somewhat confident in playing those notes if I were at home alone all by myself with no audience. But then during lessons, my guitar teacher would look at me and say, "Get creative. Make up your own songs. Do a guitar solo." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I would freeze and get annoyed and kind of hate him, actually, and I wouldn't play any notes just to show him that I was not going to get creative on that guitar. Thank you very much. Strum notes that aren't on the page? How could I? I didn't. And so it has felt to me for a long time like some people are just born with this innate artistic ability. They take an idea and they make it visible, they make it real, so the rest of us, people like me, can enjoy the fruits of their labor. Melanie and Chris and Jean with your beautiful crocheting, so many of you. And in kindergarten, I was one of those quiet students, eager to do things right, very much wanted to please my teacher. And I made very good progress in everything except scissor skills. My report card was full of S's for satisfactory, except for one sole U next to scissor skills. Unsatisfactory, Miss James told me. I could not cut a straight line or cut out paper shapes properly. And still to this day, I'm awkward with scissors. See this thing hanging over here? Friends, I did not do that by myself yesterday. Terry Trindler came in here on a Saturday and helped put this together. She has proper scissor skills. Yay, thank goodness. And yet I so want to create something that is beautiful and soul-satisfying and inspiring. And maybe some of you have your very own places in your lives where a you, unsatisfactory, shows up when it comes to the creative arts. I mean, tell me, am I all alone up here in the pulpit? Laurel, thank you. But I know that you are creative when it comes to floral essences. Yes. And I did not ask Laurel if I could say that, so I'm sorry. I love the way Sybil Macbeth writes about her struggle with her artistic side in her book, Praying with Color. She wrote, "In spite of artistic deficiencies, I've always loved color. The stadium seating of 48 crayons in the Crayola box, the sweet smell of paper and wax, and the feel of the thin cylinders rolling around in my hand were an early experience of worship. A little altar was set before me, with all those colors waiting to evangelize the world. So much potential for beauty and transformation. It seemed a terrible injustice that what I drew was so ugly. I felt it. I just had this vision of a turkey I tried to color in kindergarten around Thanksgiving. It was, again, a sad, limp little turkey up there on the wall. Have you ever been thwarted with your own artistic endeavors at some point? This month in worship, you are invited to be drawn into the creative life. And if you're like me, if that invitation feels like a lot of pressure, don't worry. I am not about to hand out crayons or guitar picks or even a pair of scissors, unless you're Terry. But we will consider how we are creative in our lives and think about ways to nurture this foundational aspect of being human. Melanie touched on that in her reflection. So whether or not you can draw a perfect circle or sing a high E or hold your scissors so you make the cut just right, every single one of us is creatively involved in developing our own lives of meaning. This process of developing our lives is what the late Reverend Forrest Church called lifecraft, the power we possess to create meaning. He wrote, "Life is not a puzzle to be solved, but a series of projects to accomplish as best we can. It's not a work in progress, but a series of works in progress. Lifecraft embraces living and dying, loving and losing, failing well, recovering and coping. The light of meaning refracts through many filters, some rosy, some dark, each changing the light behind them. From this perspective, life becomes meaningless only when we look selectively through the panes that block the light." A series of works in progress, that's us. All of these works in progress overlapping, some complementing, others living in tension. What are some of the life projects that you're engaged in right now? A few of mine are pastoring you, this congregation, figuring out how to be an almost 50-year-old woman, nurturing a relatively new marriage while we're both kind of in the middle of our career development, trying to find time for each other, maintaining friendships with people who are also right in the midst of partnerships and career building and child rearing. And finally, the life project for myself of parenting a young adult son and being a stepmom to 3 teenagers. So enough projects to keep my hands pretty full, and some of them are going really well. That's you all. And I like to think, and some of them give me pause, and honestly, in 1 or 2 of them, I can guarantee you that I'm floundering and could use a little bit of help. Some of you have shared with me your own struggles and your own intentions in infusing your life with deeper meaning than what might be found right on the surface. So you are working parents who've reached a certain stage in your career, and you're wondering, why isn't this giving me the joy that I thought it would when I first started out? You're retirees from professional life with some time on your hands, and you're wondering how to make the best use of your talents in a world that is in so need of your energy. You're young adults who are eager to make a difference in the world, yet you're also carrying heavy student loan debt and you're trying really hard to find a career that lets you live your values out in the world. And you are caregivers of children, of older adults, a caregiver of your own self and a chronic illness that you have. And you wonder, when am I ever going to have the time and energy I need to focus on even the smallest things in my life that may bring me a sense of fulfillment? Hitting a snag or realizing that you are indeed looking through a pane that has been blocked by the light at times feels overwhelming or debilitating or just plain old deflating. You may ask yourself, kind of, where am I and who am I and how did I end up in this place? And I know the pull toward giving up. I know the pull towards saying, you know what, it's just not worth it anymore. It's too hard, and I'm never going to be able to cut in a straight line, so I might as well forget it and do something else. Maybe in those moments of giving up, maybe you try to become invisible. Maybe you try to convince yourself that it doesn't really matter after all, whatever these dreams are that you have had. They weren't big enough, or maybe they were too big. You were kind of foolish for even thinking about it in the first place. Maybe you fantasize about moving to a different country. Mine's Spain, never been there. But it's where I go in my mind when the times get tough. And we all find ourselves looking into a window at some point where the light has been blocked, and we can't even see our own reflection. Some of us may feel more familiar with that experience than others, but we have all been in front of that pane of glass. And what do you do when you find your own self in that place? What are the stories you tell yourself, good and bad? Sometimes these moments can be a chance for us to do the scary thing, to make the surprising choice, to look for those notes that aren't on the page, even if it makes us very angry to have to look for them, to turn toward a different window and to dream a new dream for ourselves and our life. You are part of Troop. So whenever in your life, when you find yourself at that place, perhaps a scary place, or maybe for you it's even a joyful place of not knowing, when you find yourself stuck on one of your life's projects, you are not there alone. At least one of us in this room can pick up the scissors or help you find your note, or remind you that when we look out at you, when I look out at you, what I see and what we see is a person who is worthy and beautiful and whole and holy, exactly as you came in here today. Martha Graham wrote, "There is a vitality. There's a vitality, a life force, an energy, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And because there is only one of you in all of time, your expression is unique. And if you block it, the world won't have it. It is not your business to determine how good it is, nor how valuable, nor how it compares to other expressions. It is your business to keep it yours clearly and directly, to keep the channel open, whether you choose to take an art class or keep a journal or cut on an uneven line, dance your story, or live every day into your own creative source. Above all, keep your heart and channel open to what is in front of you. May love guide us into the next minutes and hours and stages of our life here together at Troop. We sing, Love Will Guide Us. Number 131, please rise as body and spirit allow.